movers and the shakers. Number one, never let somebody censor you.
I am a native of Dagbong.
Go back to the Holy Quran for solutions. Now the Quran bin Shah Zosimli.
And you'll want Abdul Nasr Imam Mahmoud Al Haji Jibril Imam Mustasha.
Look at your beauty beyond your physical appearance.
Why not join me, Abdul-Jalil Naabeli, the son of Musa Kumo, as my guests and I throw you life-changing stories. Good evening and welcome to another edition of My Northern Achiever on Sagani TV with me, Abdul-Jalil Naabeli. Tonight, just like any other night, is going to be packed with a lot of wisdom, a lot of inspiration. And so wherever you are viewing from, whether on YouTube or on Facebook or on Sagani TV, please pay attention, get a little notebook and copy a lot of life lessons as I introduce my guest after this commercial break to you, so that we can talk about her and where she started life from, and how life is treating her and where we would see her in the next few years. I keep using her, and that will tell you that my guest today is a female. There's only Saloma, Karatum Sandan, Pam Zungodap Saloma, Tokuto the Dagban, Dominatum Melso to Dongoman, or Tipsum Man, Pasha Mad, the opportunity to know Dagban, Tino Dagbani, Tom Wong, Junianum, and Fan Pam. Those are Dino Maka, Amale, Shukurubeleko, Oba, Pangaman Pamka, Chokoto, Yabgotra, Jella Cabatoji, and Fanny Sheldon Berfuni. Sounds on a Tian Gum Chanto for Comca Labna, T Labna, Nezangla Sant Tipsuloma. That a tree as a map for Nyanya, Tinyandi, and Fanny Shelley Osani. We go for a very quick commercial break on this note. When we are back, I introduce my guests, and trust me, we're going to enjoy a lot about this particular episode. Don't go away, stick and say, we're back shortly. Thank you and welcome back from the commercial break. I remain Abdul-Jalil Naabeli, and today I have with me a very special guest, all the way from the United States of America. She's here in Tamale in Dagbong, and she has become a full Dagomba herself. Viewers, tonight I have with me the Zosimli here at Regal Hotel, where we are taking this particular interview. Chief, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much, and I do understand your busy schedules, and so we want to say a very big thank you to you for honoring our invitation to being on this particular show. We're not going to take much of your time, and so we go straight to asking you who you really are, because many people have seen your pictures, your videos as the Zosimli. But if anybody should ask you who you are, how would you describe yourself to the rest of the world?
You know, I would still describe myself as who I am. I like to say that our work speaks for us more than our name, and our titles and our stories speak for us. And so for me, I would say that who I am is a person who is passionate about expanding the capacities of others to bring their best selves to all facets of their lives. So that's who I am.
Wow, that's deep. And it's only people who are deep-rooted in that would understand what you said. But if I want to probe further, just for the benefit of little children at home,
sure.
What are your names? Where do you come from? Where did you grow up? And how was life beginning for you? How did life begin for you as a young girl growing into a woman?
So my name is Zosimli Tipag'ya. And I was born, I live in the U.S. I live in Louisville, Kentucky. I have lived in 10 different states in the United States. I was born in Ohio, and I've lived in New Jersey, Connecticut, Texas. I've lived in North Carolina, I can't even remember all of the states that I've lived in. And so I've moved throughout the years and had the opportunity to explore the United States as well during my journey. And I would say that each move gave me a different perspective. When we don't travel, you know, traveling can be one of our largest teachers in our lived experiences. And we don't necessarily have to leave the country. While that is amazing opportunity, it's not always an option. And so just traveling to other cities, to other regions, to other places really gives you a perspective of how people live and how people thrive, and culture and all of those different things. And so as I moved from the East Coast, where there was a rich, diverse culture, and then moving to the South for some years and living in, you know, another version of a diverse culture, each one I picked up, including my accent. So depending on what word I'm using, you might get some Southern twang, and you might get some East Coast or even a little Midwest with a y'all.
Okay.
So I am the second oldest of 5. And you know, I like to say that when you have siblings, you get promoted to being a leader immediately. Yeah. So I was promoted to a leader at the age of 1. Wow. Yeah. So I have a big family. We've always spent time with our family. My grandparents on both sides, my mother's side and my father's side. I'm a 5th generation entrepreneur. And so I spent a lot of my time with entrepreneurs. My grandparents owned a market, and they had it for 40 plus years, plus a construction company. My grandfather owned a landscaping business, and my grandmother ran a daycare business. So my great grandmother ran a bakery in Ohio, in the eastern or northeastern Ohio. So I would say for me, I spent a lot of time with family, around food, around church, and around just people, and learning about our history and our culture, and just cultivating that knowledge. You know, my dad and my mom have both traveled to Ghana now twice. They were just here as part of the delegation during our program. But my dad's original visit was back in the 70s. Wow. Before I was born, he traveled here as part of his college experience. And so he was in the West Africa visiting. And I would say that was the beginning of the cultivation of my love for the continent and my connection to the continent. Our home was filled with artifacts, musical instruments, and statues and figures and maps and all kinds of things. And my dad always would tell us stories about his journey there and how we could still see some of those aspects in our family roots now. So that's a little bit about me and my family.
You know, all through your presentation as who you are, I've heard a lot about family. Here in Africa, we believe strongly that people in the United States, the West and Europe, don't really care about family. All you care about is yourself and your immediate children or siblings. Is that the case?
You know, I think that it's a both and. You know, I think when we use what we like to call monolithic, when we use these generalizations of people, it's unfair to somebody. Right? There are definitely people who are only concerned with themselves and their immediate family, but there are also people who are also concerned with their family and extended family and their even further extended family. So, you know, I always caution people to not take generalizations about people, because it's not possible for it to be true for everyone. Indeed. And so, of course, I know people that are that way. And I think what I often ask people is, before we assign judgment, that we should be curious. Yeah. Before we take a decision about a group of people and what we think of them and their perception, we should always be curious. Because our worldview, our perspective, the lens that we look through is only one color, right? It's only one vision, right? We can only see so far. And so we have to be curious in order to see into someone else's perspective and someone else's lived experiences. And so I would say, even as an African American woman, I've heard many of the myths and stereotypes about us.
Wow.
And about African Americans in the U.S. and abroad. And I would encourage and invite people to look again.
Yeah.
To be more curious, to ask more questions. And even if there is an example of what the myth is to be true, that still doesn't mean it applies to everyone.
Indeed. Indeed. That's interesting. And so at least that particular mindset, I believe a lot of Africans would have, taken another look at it after this presentation. But then, let's come to talk about education. Where did you start school? How was school life, primary to high school and to university? How was school life, basically?
I will say that I'm a lifelong learner. I'm always wanting to learn something. I try to not go through the day and not learn something every day. And I started school. I can remember a funny story. My brother and I were about a year apart, and so we started preschool together.
Okay.
However, he decided that he didn't want to start that week. And so, the school, I remember my parents had to come and pick him up, and they said he can't come back yet. He's not ready. So I was excited to have some space just for myself as one of 5, right? Yeah. Sometimes it can be difficult to find room for yourself, to just be your own unique self. Yeah. But even up through there, graduated high school and went on to college. I would say that not everybody's route is the same, right? Our journey is our journey. It's our destiny to where we're trying to get to. So I went to college and then decided, maybe I don't want to do college yet. And so I went to work and worked for some years and then decided, I'm going back to college, right?
Wow.
And so I went back to school and got my bachelor's degree. And I remember when I started, I had been out of school for some years and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to remember all of this. And I didn't let my pride decide to keep me from my success. So I was sitting in a math class, my first math class I've been in years. And the professor was doing a math problem. And I'm just quickly writing down the math problem. And he said, if you don't know how to do this math problem, he then wrote down the tutoring center. I stopped writing down the math problem and just wrote down the tutoring center information, right? And I was there every day at 7 o'clock in the morning asking for the refresher classes. How do I don't remember how to do this part. Oh, yes, now I remember. How do I navigate this? Do you have some old textbooks? I didn't allow my age or some version of pride to keep me from my goal. And so then I was able to accomplish getting my bachelor's degree in business administration. I received 2 certificates while I was in college as well, so in accounting and in event planning. I also have a minor in international business.
Okay.
And so then I went on and went into the workforce, and then I said, maybe I should go back for my master's degree. And so I went back to get my master's in executive leadership and organizational change. And so I was voted best student 2 years in a row of the program. Wow. And what's interesting is when I applied for the program, at my interview, they told me, we're not sure if you're the right fit.
Why was that?
I didn't ask. You know why I didn't ask? Because people will always doubt you. But as long as you have faith in God and faith in your assignment, you just listen, you smile, you say, oh, okay, but I know I can do it.
Wow.
And that's what I said. And they called me back and said, you're in. And then, 1 year into the program, I'm voted best student. Next year in the program, voted best student for the college.
Wow.
So, sometimes we just have to, like I like to say, hustle in silence. Let your work speak for you.
Wow. I love this part of it. Hustle in silence. Let your work speak for you. And, throughout these very first few minutes that we've spoken, I really have enjoyed a lot. I've picked a lot of quotations from you that I'm going to use a lot. And but very briefly and quickly, what is the education system like in the US? You just go to school, you decide to pause and work, you go back to school, you pause and work. Here you finish degree and you are there, left with your fate, trying to struggle and to. How is it about getting a job in the US and is it that simple?
So I didn't mention that I'm currently in my doctoral residency.
Okay.
So I have 1 year left to complete my doctoral degree.
Okay.
And I'll answer this question in a few different ways. So one, public education is available. We call it K to 12. So that would be kindergarten. So when you're 5 years old, you go to school up till you turn 18 or 19, which is your senior year. And so that's free education. But, you know, there's a quote that says, everything that's free is not for me. So while public education is free and it's available and it's a resource that's much needed and much well taken advantage of, the quality isn't always there. And so some families have to try different avenues, private schools, moving into different neighborhoods and communities, commuting long distances. I've worked in the field of education for over 10 years. So I've seen many facets of the education system in the U.S. And so once you work your way through the education system, first and foremost, for the U.S. education system, as parents, you have to be an advocate. If you are not advocating for your children to get the best education and you just drop them off, they're not going to get the best education.
I think that is where there's the problem in Ghana. Parents don't actually advocate. They just drop us in school and that is it.
But the part of the challenge is in the U.S. is there's not a space. It's not invited. Advocacy is not invited in the school system, right? Administration wants to do what they want to do without discourse, right?
Indeed.
And so part of it is one, inviting the advocacy, seeing parents as the first teacher, right? Yeah. The classroom teacher is the second teacher. The parent is the first teacher.
Yeah.
And we should never take that value away from the parents, right?
Yeah.
Because when they leave and go home, guess who's teaching them? The parents. And guess who taught them for the first 5 years before they got here? The parents. And guess who teaches them when they're done with school? Still the parents, right? And the family. And so, you know, navigating the education system, my parents were very staunch advocates of education, and they were very involved and active in my schooling and my sisters and brothers' schooling as well. I can remember many of times my parents coming to the school to fight for me to get what was due to me, or to get me into a better classroom, or to get me into a program. And they didn't relent, you know. So it's not always easy, but it is a blessing, right? So I don't want people to think that the U.S. education system is awful. Absolutely not. You know, there are definitely wonderful things about the U.S. education. I wouldn't have stayed all those years.
Yeah, sure.
And so then once you graduate from high school and you have a diploma, you know, you have the ability in the U.S. to acquire a job with just a high school diploma.
Okay.
The challenge is that it's not what we like to call a livable wage, right? And I think that terminology would translate over in Ghana, right? So there's the trade school route, right? Yeah. But we don't give as much celebration to the trade school route in any country. Yeah. We celebrate the collegiate route, right? We have these huge parties when people go to college.
Yeah.
But why don't we have the same celebration for the folks that are going into the trade?
The trade schools.
The trade schools, or when they graduate from the trade schools. We should be just as excited, because two reasons. One, you're going to need somebody to fix your car.
Yeah.
You're going to need someone to do repairs on your house, do work on your home, do all of these things. So if we aren't excited about those fields, then we won't get the best workers in those fields. And then when we need someone to acquire those services, we won't get the best.
Yeah.
Right? And then students aren't going to be excited if no one is clapping over there.
Yeah.
They're going to go where the applause is. Yeah. Most people are going to go where the applause is. So, you know, there's a quote that says, what gets celebrated is what gets done.
Wow.
So if we're celebrating this, that's what people are doing.
We should celebrate the other two.
So we have to manage that celebration. So You know, when I went to college and I came out of school the first time, I was able to get a job with my high school diploma. But then I realized I couldn't advance without a college degree. There was no way I could advance as a woman, and as a African American woman, the challenges were stacked against me to be able to advance. So I went back and got my bachelor's degree, and then even then, what really motivated me to go back for my master's degree was I was in a position and wanted to apply for a promotion. And I was told that there was no way they would ever consider me because I didn't have a master's degree, even though I knew how to do the work.
Wow. So it is there in the US too. I thought it's only in Ghana. You may know the work all right, but the certificate must be there.
Must be there.
Wow. On this note, we're going to go for a very quick commercial break. We'll come back and continue on this particular one, certificates. And then I would love to ask briefly, you know, how difficult is it being an African American in America? You know, racism and other stuff, all of these things. And then we'll come to talk about Zosimli as a chief and how she got to become the Zosimli and so many other things, so that we can conclude on this session. Don't go away. We'll be back shortly. My team and I work tirelessly to bring to you prominent Nordness, one at a time. They tell us their stories of how they grew up, the struggles they have been through, and how they attained greater heights in life.
I used also to paint Ankara.
What did I say? I showed so many things.
Further, they give pieces of advice to the youth and parents alike that, if adhered to, will change society positively.
I job here. This only Bonle.
It's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice.
Now, you must trust in yourself, believe in yourself, have confidence in yourself.
You must always pray for people to succeed in their various fields. Then Allah will give you what He thinks is best for you.
Wherever we find ourselves, let's see how do we support each other.
Young people must learn to spend within their means, and to grow, always think before you spend.
So, why not join me, Abdul-Jalil Naabeli, a son of Musa Kumo, with your family and friends every Friday at 8:30 p.m. on your favorite TV station, Sagani TV, on My Northern Achiever, as my guests and I thrill you to life-changing stories. Follow me on social media at Jalil Naabeli, like our Facebook page, and subscribe to our YouTube page, both at My Northern Achiever, for present and past videos, as well as more info. My Northern Achiever, time is mine. I thank you very much for staying glued to your TV sets. If you're watching us on TV, you can also go on YouTube at Motion TV Online. You'll be able to get us live there, as well as on Facebook at Abdul-Jalil Naabeli, my official page. You can also join us there. Please do remember to like my page and follow for notifications. Remember to also subscribe to YouTube on Motion TV Online for notifications of all our new videos, and you would never regret you do. We're back, Chief, and so let's continue from where we stopped. You know, you were talking a lot about, you know, the educational system and how it was difficult for you to continue in your career because you didn't have, you know, a degree, so to speak. You know, so that prompted you to go in for the certificate, and so from there you went to for your master's, and now you are doing your PhD. In what course?
So my doctoral degree is in organizational development and change.
Okay. Organizational development, OD. You know, there's one Dr. Benaku. He's the one spearheading organizational development here in Africa, or West Africa, I should think. Yes. So now let's come to talk a little bit about life in the United States as an African American.
Yeah.
You know, how difficult is it? Is it just a myth that things are difficult for Black African or Black Americans, or is a reality?
Yeah, I think for, you know, life can be difficult for anybody, regardless of race, gender, creed. But I will say there are definitely populations within every community that are marginalized, and that have experienced this marginalization, right? We're not unaware of the enslavery that has been perpetuated. We're not, no one is unaware of this knowledge. And, you know, we see what we see on the television. However, I would still come back to my original point, which is look again. You know, there are challenges, right? Racism is there, right? Discrimination is present, exclusion is present, stereotypes are present, and historically for African Americans it has been challenging, and that's a historical fact that we can't wipe away and pretend it doesn't exist. But what I would say is that we are sitting on the cusp of thriving. And when you go through a curve of transformation, it feels a little shaky. I'm noting how Ghana is going through this curve of transformation and evolving at a very rapid rate. And with any transformation and any change, it'll feel a little wobbly. There will be injury and insults. There will be challenges. There will be people who will be excluded and included. And so I would say that for African Americans, again, I'm not monolithic. I can't speak for every single person. I've had my share of the experiences and the challenges, but I've also not experienced some things others have experienced and had as challenges. But I still believe in the power of yet. Which means that if it is for me, it's for me.
Okay.
And nothing can stop that.
Wow. No matter how racist you are, no matter what you do, once it's for me, it's for me. Nothing else can stop that. And I like that. But now let's come to talk about a little bit of work. In your earlier submissions, I heard you say you are a 5th generation entrepreneur. What does that mean?
Yeah, so I own my own business. And in the U.S., I do leadership development, consulting, and training and coaching. So I work with medium and large organizations in all across the United States, as well as some small individual companies and nonprofit organizations. I work with some universities as well, facilitating leadership development, team development, diversity, equity, and inclusion work. And really expanding the capacities of others. And so you know, I've done entrepreneurship before, and worked at it before, and it didn't go so well the first time. I was like, this isn't working. Let's go back to the workforce. And then I tried it again, and I said, this isn't working. Let's come back again. But I think the third time was the charm. And so we have a team that works for us as well. We're a small team, but they work for us as well. And again, we work with a lot of different organizations, mainly on expanding their capacity to facilitate their organizational outcomes, right? You will only accomplish your goals based on the team. So a team is only as strong as its weakest link. So, but the challenge of having a weak link isn't knowing we have one. It's holding the weak link accountable and giving them the support they need to be back into the strong set of the team. That's what's challenging on teams, right? And leadership, I like to say, is not for the faint of heart. Everybody cannot do it. We do have the capacity to lead. We're compelled to lead in our families. We lead in our communities, and we may or may not lead in our works and our jobs. But as a leader, it's how you show up. It's how I do the things that I do. It's how I communicate. It's how I work with others, and whatever facet that is. And so as a business owner, that's so I'm the 5th generation, meaning both of my 5 generations back have been entrepreneurs, maybe in different business fields, but 5 generations back, and now going forward.
Wow, that's great. And so now talking about leadership, you have been in Dagbong for some time now.
Yeah.
I think about 2 months.
Almost.
So. Yeah. And you have seen how things have been going. I believe it's not a belief. You are a very intelligent person, and I believe by now you would have observed one or two things. What can you say about leadership in Dagbong?
Yeah, I'm actually excited for two reasons.
Okay.
I see, sometimes we can assume that our version is the version. And when I came with a very open mind and exploratory to really want to know more about what are other versions of leadership, right? At times and oftentimes, Africa as a continent gets dismissed as not having any resources, right? There's no knowledge. No one knows what they're doing. It's all corrupt, which is another myth that we have to sort through, right? It's not that there's no corruption, right? It's not that there aren't some of these things, but it doesn't mean it's true for everyone. And so, I've learned a lot about tribal leadership, and I've learned a lot about family leadership. That for me has been very intriguing, and I've taken elements of it and began to think about how do I incorporate that into the leadership style and framework that we use. And so just thinking about how we honor, but more than honor, how we host. So hosting is sometimes a lost art of leadership. But I think I said this before, the people of Dagbong and the people in the North are known for their hospitality. And that's a leadership trait that people forget about. How you host someone as a leader is paramount to your ability to accomplish a goal.
Wow.
So I'm taking lots of things back with me. One of the things I have also observed is there is opportunity for growth everywhere. And one of those that I've noted is around meetings and how we engage and set goals. We can only do so much. Priority can only be one thing. By definition, the priority can't be 10 things. And so one of the things I've observed is it seems like everybody is trying to do everything instead of being good at what you're good at. Stay in your lane.
And allow other people to also
allow other people to make that space. I think it's not malice, but we see the need, so we're in so many places, so people are trying to fill the need, right? Versus allowing the space to be open for the person when they arrive will meet the banner, right? So I think one of the opportunities for organizations that I've engaged with and noted is to get clear and succinct about what they are trying to accomplish, because otherwise what you're doing is spraying and praying. And everybody has roaches, no matter what country you're in, right? And so if you spray water on a cockroach, it's not gonna die. But when we are not succinct and focused and narrow in our niche, then it's like spraying water on a cockroach and hoping it will die. It's just spraying and praying.
Wow.
It won't work.
I believe that we all would take this as a very big lesson. And it is, if we really are at home and we are watching, this is just a true reflection of what Chief is saying about what leadership and the lives we live here in Dagbong is. Is this your first time in Africa, in Ghana?
No, this is my second time in Ghana.
Okay.
And then this is my well, it depends on how you look at it. So I've been to South Africa, I've been to Zimbabwe, and then Ghana twice.
Okay. Okay, so how did you get to become the Zosimli now? Who sorted you out? And how did you accept, like, do you identify yourself as a Ghanaian?
Home is where the heart is.
Okay.
So for me, the North is my home now.
Wow, I love that. So how did you get to become the Zosimli now? What happened?
What happened? So I like to say that I was prepared for opportunity.
Okay.
We think that opportunity will knock and then we get ready. But the opportunity will never present itself. You won't ever be able to see it if you're not ready. Right? People say that the teacher appears when the student is ready. Right? So the opportunity appears when we are ready. So for me, I think the journey started in my master's program. But long before that, I think one of the manifestation points was I was sitting in my college program, in my master's program, and I just kind of went into my thoughts, and I thought about, I'm curious about what leadership is like in the continent of Africa. And I'm curious about how do we begin to foster relationships of belonging between the U.S. and the continent of Africa that are belonging relationships, not just transactional exchanges, right? Because we can think we are a community, but all we're doing is doing transactional exchanges, right? Just because we stand next to each other doesn't make us a team, right? Or a community. Just because we live next door doesn't make us a community. And so I really was like, it's time now. And I wasn't sure of what and how. I just said, this is what I need to do. I turned to my colleague and I said, I need to go to the continent of Africa and find leadership. And she was like, what? And I was like,
that was in which year?
Oh no, so I'm gonna dream big, I'm gonna start small and scale fast. And so I started interacting with colleagues that I had met. I've always engaged with the diaspora community in the U.S. and as well as some individuals that are in Zimbabwe and South Africa. So I connected with them and said, here's what I'm trying to do. Where do I start? What might be possible? You know, when we think about the possibilities, we withhold judgment. And then we can actually find what we want to find, versus if we judge the possibilities, you'll never get what you really are meant to find.
Indeed.
So from there, I began to engage other people and began to just develop a community and say, hey, let's just start talking about how do we do this? What does it look like? What's possible? Who should we connect with? Who should we engage? And we just began having conversations. And as that just began to churn, I ended up engaging with the Louisville Sister Cities. And I knew they had a sister city with Ghana. So that was one of the areas I was curious about. And as a result of doing that, I ended up meeting King Faisal Adam. And he shared with me about this opportunity. And this was after lots and lots and lots of discussions about Africa and the U.S. and African Americans and Africans and U.S. citizens and exchanges and all of those different things. And so he asked me if I was interested in exploring this opportunity, and that I would believe that I would be a good fit. And so I went through an interview process with the sister cities of Tamale, which included a wide variety of stakeholders, including the Gupina and other chieftaincies, other chiefs as well, other civic leaders as well.
Wow.
And so I came in July to accept the COLA for the position. That's the short version.
Wow. And I love the fact that you really had to be interviewed, by prominent chiefs. And I love that fact. So it's not like it was just conferred on you.
No, not just interviewed. I had to send references.
So that they would really know how good or otherwise you are, so that we know that we are giving the chieftaincy to a worthy person. And indeed, Dagbong is lucky. A beautiful, intelligent chief for that matter.
Thank you.
In fact, I admire you, because the first time I saw you was yesterday live, and your posture and your demeanor, it's as if like you've been coached to be a chief from day one. Like from infancy. I love the way you move, the way you speak, the way you listen to people and everything. Indeed, we are blessed.
Thank you.
We are blessed. And I think we have to go for a very quick commercial break. We'll come back and round up on this. I'll just have to ask Chief, what the Zosimli chieftaincy title means for her, what her plans are for Dagbong, especially for the young ladies out there, and her pieces of advice for everyone watching, so that we can conclude on this session. Don't go away, stay away, back shortly.
Agarba dilu to katwa yema ye ndangmara nawalna de tipin karman sanyo ay do ye to anadiya wulu kashel bu pal samana nya ye nawal nganda dunia lansunya sazo tengba lansunya wala pul lansunya to na namlana mbone yala lansungo anamla biala ya de kaya adalu ma biala ya de kaya apitil biala ya de kaya mbone yala fona sungo abanda zalorapam manirapam bishakampam kagbazal bishakampam lorun nambe yele tartana je sambano huha ami yankul ni shi yankul be nkushi to nyam yadin kamba bangda maldabiam pam pargo ban kan la.
To thank you very much for staying with me on my Northern Achiever on Sagani TV. I have with me tonight Zosimli, you know, and she's here in Ghana. She'll be leaving very soon, and so we don't have enough time to talk on this show. But we've been learning a lot from her, and I believe that we'll learn a lot more in this very last few minutes that we are going to be with her. Now, Zosimli, you know, what is it about, and what do you bring on board as Zosimli?
You know, the chieftaincy in and of itself is a representation of friendships multiplying. It was birthed out of the work of sister cities and the work of the late Dr. Susan Herleen, which is Zosimli the first. And that collaborative exchange between the two cities of Louisville and Tamale. And so that continues. That's 40 years young and old, as I like to say. And so that work continues. And so, you know, Sister Cities International is known about people-to-people exchanges. It was founded by President Eisenhower, which is a U.S. president, because he really believed that people-to-people exchanges were stronger than government-to-government. So, so as part of that, it will continue to be development around people. There'll still be around friendships and around people-to-people. Those exchanges and things. And so we have really organized around these 4 pillar areas for the office of Zosimli in partnership with the sister cities of Tamale and the sister cities of Louisville, the World Affairs Council of Kentucky, and the Metro Assembly of Tamale, I believe, if I have that correctly.
Yes, please.
And so they center on health and well-being, culture and community, education and leadership, and then business and innovation. And so even during our program that we started just over a month ago, each of the pillars were touched. So we hosted a women's conference for young women that were completing their tertiary program. So we had over 100 students in that program that came for leadership development series, seminar, and workshop. We also did kicked off our Healthy Tamale initiative with the teaching hospital with a maternity ward cleanup and blood drive in partnership with TSEC, as well as community members just volunteered to come along with the members of Sister Cities. And then we also are still expecting a 40-foot container of medical supplies any day. I have all my fingers crossed that we're just still filtering through some processes. But those medical supplies are slated to benefit multiple facilities within the Tamale metropolitan area. And then from there, we also visited some schools, and we've also done an Ignite Summit, which was really about how do we do this collaboration between partners and stakeholders. And so we invited and engaged with CEOs and civic leaders and key stakeholders, traditional leaders, to really think about how do we get succinct together towards a common goal. And so then we also had the enskinment and the coronation, and the Dumba and Somo Dama and Na Dumba. So those were our cultural and community elements. We traveled up into the north and the upper east to experience different tourist attractions as well, because we become brand ambassadors for the region, right? And we also have been thinking about what's next, right? We launched our virtual assistant training program for a small cohort of individuals that will now be moving them towards employment now that they've completed their training. And that was really intentional about making sure that we weren't removing people from their homes, right? So they can stay and work in place. Their incomes benefit all the people in place, and their knowledge benefits the community in place. And so that was important to us to think about, how do we not create a brain drain around those things? So we're excited. We invite people to come and join the Tamale Sister Cities. If you're looking at, how do I connect? What's possible? Where might I fit in? You know, I want to say two things. One, you can join the Tamale Sister Cities. Two, you can connect with us online and on social media. So the website is www.zosimli.net. And you can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Okay.
And then also, you know, when you're thinking about joining, I want you to ask yourself, why?
Okay.
Why do I want to join? Not for what I will get, but what will I be bringing? How am I going to contribute to the benefit of the whole, all people? Because when we serve all people, or when we serve others, we always get what our needs are met, and then some, right? So, you know, for me, this journey was really couched in serving people. And I had so many opportunities to do it in ways I had never even anticipated. Sometimes we over-engineer a process or a schedule, and then we don't leave room for God to do what he's supposed to do, right? So it was a wonderful journey, and I'll be back again, because this is home.
Yeah, I do believe you will be back. But how long are you going to stay away from Dagbong? Because we really miss you, and we'd love to have you all the time. So how soon are we expected to see you again?
I'm still working through that. You know, part of our plans for Louisville, in partnership with the World Affairs Council, the City of Louisville, and others, we're in the planning stages of hosting the Dumba in 2023 in Louisville. So the late Zosimli Dr. Susan Herline, she hosted the first Dumba in the U.S. in Louisville in 2012. And so we're looking to bring Dumba back to the Louisville city and showcase Louisville as a sister cities of Tamale for over 40 plus years. So that may keep me away for just a little bit longer.
But then that means that let me get an invite. This one there is official. An invite for my next Miss Damba Queen. You know, we brought Miss Damba to see you. Probably we could get Miss Damba coming to celebrate Damba with you in the US. That would be something.
That would be something.
Yeah. So we will look forward to the invite, and probably we'll talk about it a lot more. But what I would want to ask before we conclude on this session is, you have been here for quite some time. What do you think we can do differently as a people, Dagbong, generally?
So I think in general, there's maybe two things I would suggest. Or three. One is education. We have to pursue educational opportunities with rigor and with thirst. Not just for some people, but for everyone. So I would really be admonishing us to take time and look at the data. And instead of one person over here, one person over there, one person over here, one person over there, trying to serve education as a whole, where is there a place where we can really put all of our energy and focus together and focus on educational opportunities? How might the community begin to volunteer within the educational space? How might organizations and NGOs begin to be partners in the educational space to help really expand that learning opportunity and give other people opportunities as well? And the other would be to, when we do that, is to consider who are those that are marginalized, that are not getting the opportunities. Because if we continue in the path of only getting those who have been getting, then we shouldn't expect anything to change.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The definition of insanity is doing the same thing, expecting a different result. So the last piece of advice, I would say, and invitation, right?
Okay.
When we invite people, they have a choice to accept it or not accept it, right? Versus we demand for people to do something. And so I want to invite people to get ready in Dagbong, in the northern region. We're sitting right at the edge of something so phenomenal that if we don't prepare ourselves right now, we won't be ready.
That is what?
Yeah, that's what we have to still decide. One thing about the future is we don't know what it is. We just can see the outline or the silhouette of something great on the horizon. You can sense it, you can feel it, you can smell it. The NDA has released their 5-year plan. The YANA has the 10-year strategic plan. So there's something percolating. And so sometimes we have to get out of our rat race and pause and really consider what's happening in the future that I need to think about right now. Which means, what is it that I need to stop doing right now so I can be ready for what's happening in the future? If I say yes to everything, then there's no way I can say yes to the future.
I love all of these things, and time is of essence. But what has been your life principles growing up all through to this point?
Oh, I think I've shared a lot of them.
Yeah, sure.
And I think for me, it's integrity, it's grace. Forgiveness is a significant element of, people. We're all people. No one is up to 10 is a proverb I'm taking back with me. And so forgiveness, grace, integrity, and honesty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think those will be it.
Do you have any kids on your own?
Yes, I have 2 daughters.
That's the part I love. If you say daughters, I believe they'll be as beautiful as you are. Maybe, is there anyone that matches?
Hey!
Maybe I could just be interested in one of them.
Oh, okay. I see.
All right. It's been wonderful having you.
Thank you.
But I can't take leave of you without asking you your piece of advice to everybody, especially to young women here. I don't know how well you've been able to study young women in Dagbong, but if you have, what advice do you have to give them?
Yeah, so I would say 3. Number 1 is be serious.
Okay.
There is a time and a place for everything, which means there's a time and a place for the giggle, the laughter, the fun, the playing, the banter, and there's a time to be serious. Number 2, even if someone says no, try again. When the world says give up, hope whispers try again. Don't be dismayed by someone's no. It may be delayed, but not denied. Persevere, be resilient, keep pushing, but do it with grace. Sometimes when you've been exiled or you've been excluded, when you get aggressive in what you're after, and that's only doing to others what has been done to you. So, we have to leave with that level of forgiveness as we pursue those possibilities. But don't ever stop just because one person tells you no. There's always another way to accomplish a goal that has laudable possibilities. And the third would be dream. Don't stop dreaming. Dream in color.
Wow, I would like to be a little bit selfish. You have been to Yendi to take the color and to take the smoke and other things. We have a very lovely king, here in Dagbong, a wise old man.
Yeah.
But I've heard sister cities, and it's always in Tamale. And is there any plans of getting it to Yendi and pushing certain other things to Yendi as well?
Yeah, sometimes we try to contain something, but its destiny is is beyond what we want to contain it to. And so it started as tamale in Louisville and cultivated, but even under the late Dr. Zosimli, Dr. Susan Herline, it grew beyond those boundary borders, so to speak. So for me, I see the whole of the North as part of the work that I'm doing.
Yeah. Okay, so I think it's been great, but there's something that I wanted to get. But so, like, if you can do it in 2-3 minutes for me. You are a leadership trainer, and it's one big problem that we have here in Africa and in Dagbong. What conditions, necessitate for a great teamwork, vis-a-vis the leader leading the team and bringing them together? Like, what conditions do we need as a team to have a great teamwork?
So I'll share 5.
Okay.
1 is trust.
Okay.
If we don't trust each other, we're not doing anything together. If we don't trust each other, we're only going to get so far. And a lot of times people think like, oh, I do trust you. But trust plays out in different ways. So if I'm withholding information, that's a way of showing you I don't trust you.
Yeah.
If I'm slow to communicate with you, that's a way of saying I don't trust you. So you have to have trust, right? If I agree to do something, you ought to be able to trust that I'll get it done, right? So a team has to have trust. Then we have to have commitment. And then from there, if we have trust, then we can commit. Yeah. And then from there, if we can commit, then we can have accountability, right? We have to have ownership and accountability of what we're trying to accomplish. And then from there, we have to have attention to results, right? If we're not paying attention to that North Star, right, that goal we're working towards, we'll just be running around like a chicken with his neck cut off, right? And then the 5th one is, what is it, trust? Oh, communication.
Communication.
In the absence of information, people make it up.
Wow. Your final words to everybody watching right about now.
My final words?
Yes, please.
Oh. So I have a few final words. One, I want to say thank you.
Okay.
Tipag'ya, I'm so grateful for all the people that I saw, that I know about and don't know about and didn't see, that supported me, that advocated for me, that were excited about this opportunity. It means so much to me that words are even short for. And then I want to say I can't wait to be back. I'm looking forward to it. And I think my final words is let's shine the light on the northern region.
Wow. Very final. What would you want to be remembered for when you are far gone?
Oh, yeah. What do I want to be remembered for when I'm far gone? This is about legacy development.
Yeah.
I think for me, I want to be remembered for my innovation.
Well, thank you very much, Chief. And this has been my Northern Achiever on Sagani TV. A great episode with the Zosimli Na, and it's been intriguing, quite insightful, quite motivational, quite inspirational, and I believe that we've all learned 1 or 2 things from the noble chief. My outfit today is by Aziz Bumbas. Bumbas is one of the best designers here in the North. Thank you very much, Bumbas, for everything. And I would like to say a very big thank you to my very big senior, Mr. Gaff. He's been the one in charge of this particular. He's done a lot to get in this particular interview for us. Thank you so much. And thanks to all the subordinates or the auxiliary chiefs of the Zosimli Palace, especially Wulana, and every other person in the Zosimli Palace. Thank you very much. And also today, the interview has been filmed at Regal Hotel. Thank you so much for Regal Hotel and the management for giving us the opportunity to film it here. As for the team, always solid behind the cameras, I have Jawise today and Afresh One Of course, Latif is here doing the directions, and thank you very much, every other person. Sagani TV, management, and every other person, thank you so much for always holding us down. As for you, the viewers, I always say that you are what the program is, because if we bring the episode and you don't watch, then there's no program. Thank you so much for always holding us down. Until I come your way again next week, my name remains Abdul-Jalil Naabeli, your humble host. See you again next week, inshallah. Bye bye for now.